one thing that we cannot deny is the power of encountering the presence of God.
Hey, you're listening to the Follower of One podcast. We want our faith to matter full time, whatever we're doing, but especially at work. Here's today's podcast. Hey everyone, it's Mike Henry Sr. with Follower of One. Thanks for joining me again today on the Follower of One podcast. Today, my guest is Nicole Vallance of Connected with Nicole. Nicole, would you tell everybody hi?
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. I'm very excited for what we're going to talk about today. I think it's really important for your listeners to hear, and I love what you're doing, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, we connected. We connected through LinkedIn. We have Nicole's connection information. If you're watching the video, some of it will be seen on the screen. Also, we'll have connection information for her in the show notes below, and you'll be able to get on the audio version of this as well. But so tell people a little bit about what you do and how we connected.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I do is my whole mission of my entire life is to fulfill the Great Commission. So I want to reach people for Christ, help them, experience everything that Jesus did for us. And so I consult business owners. So I'm a keynote speaker. I do conferences, I do webinars, I do workshops for for-profit organizations. I'm an executive leadership coach, and I think it's very important for us as Christians to be connected with people that don't know God, that are far from Him. And so that is, my business in the marketplace. But ultimately, my goal is to get people to encounter God. So I do these retreats all over the country. I've got one in Puerto Rico in October, another one in November in Orange County, and then we're going to Austin and Nashville and trying to plan a trip to Israel in May. And so, that's just from the start to the end. My goal is to reach people for Christ.
Tell us about the retreats.
There are so many different denominations, right? There's so many different, things about theology that we can agree on and disagree on. But one thing that we cannot deny is the power of encountering the presence of God. Once you encounter His presence, hear His voice, experience that life change, you'll never go back. You can't ever go back. And
Yeah.
so I do these encounters that are designed for people to meet God, to hear Him, to get healing, to have a real experience. And then, of course, we walk out our faith in different ways. Some of us have an egalitarian approach to ministry. Some of us have a complementarian approach to ministry. Some of us are cessationists. Some of us believe in all of the gifts in the Holy Spirit and are oversaved. I mean, so wherever you fall on the spectrum, my goal is to get you to encounter God. And so I do these retreats, and I focus them on reaching people that don't know Christ.
So people who are interested in learning more, they should go to your website, right? Connected with Nicole, or
And yes,
connect
connect.
with you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, they can connect with me on LinkedIn, all of my socials. Well, on LinkedIn, it's Nicole Valance, but on all of my socials, they can connect with me at Connected with Nicole. But yes, if you go to my website, connectedwithnicole.com, and then click the encounter tab, you will find our upcoming encounters that we're doing. And it's really powerful. I tell people, I try to get people connected to me to get them connected to Christ. So that's why all my branding is Connected with Nicole. And so I tell people, if you're connected with me, if you've ever wanted to give God a chance, if you've ever been open to spirituality, connect with me. Come to one of my encounters. Come to something that I'm doing. Some of it, it's like, let's get coffee, let's get lunch, but ultimately come to one of my encounters, because I know if I can get them in the room, that God's gonna speak to them. And my God tells me all the time at these events that I do, He's like, Nicole, thank you so much, because He wants to reach people. And especially in the business community, right? In the marketplace, people, unfortunately, the brutal facts are people are busy. They're not always going to go to church on Sunday. And John Maxwell says that 53% of the lost aren't coming to our churches, even if they get invited. And so doing encounters and being involved in the business community is my way of evangelizing.
Yeah, I understand. I think one of the jokes that we tend to trick ourselves into believing is that people have to go to church to learn about Jesus, right? I mean, that's not necessary.
Unfortunately, so many Christians these days don't know how to share their faith. They don't know how to be a witness. It's not on their heart. It's not on their minds. And I understand people are busy with their lives and their families and their kids and soccer practice and baseball, but the truth is people are far from God. And if we don't do anything and everything in our power to reach them, they'll spend eternity without Christ. And it's a lot easier to share the gospel. It's a lot easier to reach people than we realize. Jesus said the harvest is ready. And 8 out of 10 people, Mike, to be completely honest, 8 out of 10 people that I share the gospel with accept Christ
Mhm.
because
Cool.
they're willing. So,
Hmm. Well, that's very cool. Yeah,
mm,
we actually, you and I talked about this, but in Follower One, we talk about how our job is to help everyone that we meet move a little closer to Jesus, or
that's
to
right.
move one notch closer to Jesus. And so that's exactly, we're trying to do the same thing and helping people do that. So, your website is connected with the Nicole.com,
Yes.
and you can connect with Nicole on LinkedIn as well. And did I pronounce your last name wrong? Is it Valance?
Valance. Yep. That's great.
Okay. So I accented the wrong syllable at the beginning. So I apologize about that. But
Oh,
so how did you get involved in organizational coaching and consulting?
on accident, like most of us fall into what we're doing, I imagine. I went to school to Chico State University in Northern California. I live in the Los Angeles area. And I went up there to go to school to become a teacher. And I was in a sorority, and God radically changed my life. I prayed, God, if you're real, make yourself real to me. And so I became a Christian when I was 19 years old. Um, and then I planted my first church, and that went well, and we were reaching people for Christ. But a couple of years ago, God started really impressing on me that there was a lot of pastors, a lot of churches that needed help. And so I started praying, Mike. I said, God, if there's any pastors or churches, they need a spiritual cheerleader, a spiritual, encourager, somebody to help
Mhm.
them execute their vision. I'm available. And what I didn't realize when I planted my first church that I see now is because I was so focused on helping people, like you said, take one step closer towards Christ. We had developed a system that really helped people move along the Great Commission, right? Get
Mhm.
saved, healed, delivered, set free. And then we were training them to reach others because, from Sacramento to the Canadian border is the most unreached part of our country. And turns out if you can lead a nonprofit organization like a church of 350 volunteers, you have a thing or two that you can do for profit companies. And so I believe that our mission doesn't change. We exist to fulfill the Great Commission to reach people for Christ. We've been
Mhm.
given the ministry of reconciliation, but our methods change. And I never thought that I would be involved in any type of secular work, marketplace work, because God had called me to vocational ministry. But a couple years ago, I started consulting churches and pastors, and then doors started opening up for me to speak at conferences and events like Vistage. And so because of that, I found that the business owners and the business leaders that I was building a relationship with, I was talking to them about leadership and how to mobilize and engage their employees, and it was providing so much value to them that I said, okay, I think that I can leverage the experience that I've had building churches to help business owners and entrepreneurs grow and build their businesses. And so I've been doing that for the past couple years, and it's been a great way for me to reach people. One of my clients is coming out to my encounter in Orange County, and I love her company and I love what we're doing, but I am beyond excited to help her encounter God. And so
Mhm.
that's how I got involved in the work that I do for organizations.
Very cool. Very cool. So what's some advice that you would give the average listener on this show? Many of the people who hear this show are already trying to do things with their faith in their daily job. So what's a bit of advice that you would give to someone who's um, trying to figure out how they can live their faith today as soon as they get done listening to this podcast?
I don't know that I've ever met a Christian that if you ask them if they would like to bring people to heaven or lead someone to Christ, they would say, no, they're not interested in that. There's this poem that goes like this. It says, when I enter that beautiful place, far removed from earth's sorrow and care, I want to hear somebody tell me it was you that invited me here.
Mhm.
When at home in those mansions in heaven and the saved of all nations appear, I want to hear somebody tell me it was you who invited me here. To our Savior alone be the glory, whose spirit the witness did bear. Yet I might not have heard the glad tidings had you not invited me here. And when I share that poem and I talk to Christians, they want to invite someone to heaven. They want to invite people to have a relationship with God, but it's just not front of mind. What I think is front of mind for a lot of Christians, because we teach this in our churches, is sanctification and being a good person and being like Jesus, right? In the 90s,
Mhm.
it was what would Jesus do? And I think we associate that with being moral and walking in love, which we should. We should, of course, walk in love. And that's part of the Spirit's job in our life, is to help us have the joy and the peace and the love and the self-control. And I am in 100% agreement with that. But the Apostle Paul says that he considers his life worth nothing unless he uses it to finish the assignment of sharing the good news. And so I think that for the Christians that are listening that want to walk out their faith, I would tell them to pick 3 people in their life that don't know Christ and just start praying for them every single day. I call it your prayer 3. And so
Mhm.
if they'll do that, it'll be on the front of their heart. And then the truth is yes, we want to walk in love, and Christians get a bad rap because we don't always walk in love. But to me, to be a Christian is to be forgiven. And yes, of course, to be on that sanctification track. But to me, one of the greatest things that I can do for somebody at work, somebody in my life that doesn't know Christ, is clearly tell them, because how can they call upon the name of the Lord unless they hear the gospel? Paul tells the church in Rome. And how can they hear the gospel unless somebody is sent and tells them? And
Mhm.
so I tell Christians, just start by picking 3 people every single day. You can put an alarm in your phone, you can put a Post-it note on your computer and pray for them. And then I tell Christians to do what my friend Nessa did to me in high school. When I was 16 years old, there was this
Mhm.
girl, Nessa. She would come to school with her big old Bible on her desk, and she was very nice and kind, as which was phenomenal to me. And she asked me if she could take me to In-N-Out. It's a restaurant here in California,
Mhm.
to share her faith. And she sat down with me and she asked me this question. She said, Nicole, how are you getting to heaven? And I said, because I'm a good person. And she said, good people don't go to heaven. Only those saved by Jesus do. I wasn't ready to accept Christ then, but she had written the entire gospel to me out in precious moment paper, stationery paper. Um, and I still have it. And I just saw Nessa at my 20-year high school reunion, and of course, jumped on her and gave her a big old hug. And I've seen her a few times since then. And you would not, you should have seen, the reunion when I came back home to Southern California and I saw Nessa for the
Yeah.
first time. I'm like, I got saved, and I was so excited. But that's why I tell Christians, pick 3 people. And then, there's a lot of great apps like God Tools that has the 4 spiritual laws from
Mhm.
Campus Crusades for Christ that makes it really easy to share our faith. But just pray for people and then ask if you can share your faith. And most unbelievers are going to say yes.
Very cool. And so once again, I want to remind everybody to check out and connect with Nicole, which is connected with Nicole on LinkedIn or connected with Nicole.com or Nicole Valance. And you can find her on LinkedIn by her name or by the connected with Nicole. I think that still works too. And it's just very exciting. I'm excited for you. I'm also excited for your customers and the people who can take part in these retreats. Give us the dates. Do you have the dates of some of the retreats?
If you go to connectedwithnicole.com and then scroll down to the bottom where it has the encounter tab, you can find out about when our next encounter is. And by the end of summer, we'll do one at Staples Center here in Los Angeles. I believe that we're going to get 20,000 people to fill the stadium that don't know Christ. And if Billy Graham can do it and Catherine Coleman and all the people, then let's believe that God can draw people to him so that they can encounter him.
Yeah, very cool. And Nicole's also, she's a member of Follower of One's online community. So if you're a member of our community, you can connect with her in there as well. So I'm still trying to get her on a marketplace mission trip, but those kinds of things, people sign up for the mission trip and then things happen, right? And so we have an enemy. I get it. Well, thanks so much for being on the show tonight or today. I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about what God's doing through your ministry and through your business. And so once again, I want to remind everybody, connectedwithnicole.com. Go check it out and connect with Nicole. All right? Nicole, thanks very much.
Thanks, Mike. I'm so glad to have been on the show.
And listeners, take a minute and share this with some friends. Take serious what she suggested about remembering 3 people in prayer consistently. We ought to be able to do this for a long period of time. However long God has us here, we can be paying attention to the people around us. And so again, thanks, Nicole. And thank you, listeners, for taking part in this and being part of Follower of One. As with always, you can check out Follower of One at followerofone.org. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Follower of One is an online community of people who intentionally follow Jesus every day, at work or wherever we are. Join us at community.followerofone.org, and don't forget to subscribe and share it in your various social media channels. Thanks for listening.